Hello everybody, this is Caz Wisher, and I'm going to start off my Let's Play series with a game series that's very dear to my heart, and that's the Mega Man series. The Mega Man series has been something that I've been a fan of ever since I first saw it. It first came out in 1987 in the States, and ever since 1988 when I had my first Nintendo, I was just a fan of the series, just kind of the gameplay mechanic, the gameplay style, everything that Mega Man is just very well encapsulated in a lot of the things I really like about video games. And I go back to things like, because my previous experiences with it was just Mario, Zelda, and those were good experiences, but something that was a little bit more of a futuristic setting, kind of like Metroid, but a little bit more brighter, and just it was something that was maybe not completely new at the time, but was something that was really good, really catchy, had really easy gameplay. You learned by doing on this series, and throughout the years, Mega Man's done a lot of things. I know we haven't seen any of the Blue Bomber in the past, really. I don't know if it's been almost a decade other than him showing up in Smash for Wii U, but just to kind of remember Mega Man, just kind of remember how it was, I'm going to go through the Mega Man Legacy Collection, and I'm going to go through all 6 of the games. And for all 6 of these games, I'm going to attempt a 1 credit, 1 CC run of all these. Maybe we'll get there, some of these we won't. Some Mega Mans are really hard, and I'm going to tackle one of the hardest ones coming up right now. That'll be the first one. So, what I have on screen here is the Mega Man Legacy Collection. It's been out for about a good 6 to 8 months, I believe. And it's basically the first 6 Mega Man NES games that came out between 1987, I believe, 93 or 94 is when Mega Man 6 was released. But I'll go ahead and give any corrections to this at the end of the video if I need to make any corrections. I'm sure there'll be a couple. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the Legacy Collection. And you see the Legacy Collection, we have the games themselves. We have challenges, which are really, really fun things to play through, which go through little snippets of Mega Man. And these little snippets of Mega Man go in such a way that you're going to do a series of these back to back to back, or you're going to fight a series of bosses as the challenges. And there's already been a lot of good challenges that have come about. There's all sorts of playthroughs you can look at. And just a really nice addition to the Mega Man Legacy Collection on Steam, which is what I'm playing this on. There's also a music player and then options and controls. Man, we won't go too deep into that. But let's go ahead and go into games. And you see here we have all 6 of the Mega Mans. Mega Man, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Mega Man 4, Mega Man 5, and Mega Man 6. One thing that I'm pretty happy about is that they decided to go with the Japanese promotion art for all 6 of these. And the Japanese promotion art is pretty to the point about what Mega Man is. This is what it looks like. And as you know, in the US, we've had some interesting box art for especially the first 3 Mega Man games. And we'll get into all that stuff in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Mega Man. And we see we have several options here as part of the Legacy Collection. We have a database and a museum. These 2 options here, the database just talks about all the things you'll see in the game. The museum has a lot of that art and then some extra art that has, some of it's never been before seen, some of it's only been seen in the Mega Man illustration books, which have the 25-year anniversary edition. Then there's options controls if you want to change those, but we're going to go ahead and we are going to go ahead and let me go ahead in the options here. Now, I know a lot of people kind of get weird when you put Mega Man in the wide mode, so I'm going to go ahead and play 1 in original, and we're going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and do it from there. I might have to put some bars on the screen just to kind of make it kind of look good, but since I know a lot of people kind of really want the original look and feel for Mega Man in these videos, I'm going to try to provide that for most, if not all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and really the only other things for the options is that there's a version of Mega Man and Rockman on here, which has a couple little differences to it. And then you got button, keyboard configuration, just general stuff for control. So we're going to save that data, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start Mega Man 1 now. So as you can see here, we've got 6 Robot Masters here. We got Cut Man, Guts Man, Iceman, Bomb Man, Fireman, Elect Man. This is one of the only Mega Mans that didn't have 8 Robot Masters in it. And again, just kind of 6 was just kind of the number they kind of went with. In later editions, and particularly Mega Man Powered Up, the remake of this first Mega Man game that was only for the PSP, you end up getting Oil Man and Time Man as a 7 and 8 Robot Master to kind of make it even retroactively. But just looking at the first Mega Man, we have these 6 Robot Masters. Now, there's lots of things when we talk about the robot order, what weakness is for each robot. So for each Robot Master that we have a weakness for each one of them. And normally there's 1 or 2 that you can actually use your default weapon on, such as, and I'll go ahead and say right now that most people would normally take Cut Man first because he's fairly easy with the Mega Buster. Normally I do Guts Man first. He's a little bit harder, but he's not so hard that you can't do it. And also at the same time, when you're dealing with Guts Man, once you get his weapon, a lot of the weaknesses come very easily to you once you beat Guts Man. So for some people it's Cut Man, for some people it's Guts Man. I normally take Guts Man first. So let's go to it. And you see the clear points there on the screen kind of gives you an indication of how many points a particular boss is worth. And again, the first Mega Man, one of the only ones that had a score system attached to it. It will be into the X series when you would get kind of a grading system to kind of be something kind of like it. But really the only Mega Man with a score system, and to kind of keep up with high scores, things like that. So, but really high scores are just kind of for it's kind of one of the few ways that people kind of went together with this. So, and these platforms here, you have to be very careful. Got it. So, now we have these enemies here called Watchers. They're pretty annoying because they normally swoop down on you, and they tend to do a lot of damage if you don't take care of them very quickly. Best thing to do is just to stand in one place in kind of the middle of the screen and kind of take them out. Next enemies we run into are Picket Man, and these are basically mitts with bodies, more or less. You'll see some sort of Picket Man or Pickle Man as we go through the series here, but the first default one takes a lot of hits, but he's fairly easy to get past. More Watchers here, so we have to be careful here. Let's get a little bit of energy, and I couldn't even get in the thing for the one up there. Now for the worst enemy, and probably one of the worst enemies of the entire series. We have Big Eye. Big Eye hurts. He hurts about 10 units of energy every time he hits you. So you have to be very careful in terms of dealing with Big Eye, or use a better weakness weapon, such as another thing we're going to find a little bit later to take care of Big Eye. But again, Big Eye is also one of the things that gives you the most amount of points in the game. I think it's about 9,000. But again, you have to kind of balance that with, do I want to get through the game? Do I want to get a high score? Those things. Now, Guts Man. Guts Man has a little bit of a gimmick to his attack pattern where every time he hits the ground, he shakes the ground. And if you're a little bit early or late with how you hit the ground, then you're going to basically kind of get jostled around like this. Now, from far away, it's not that big a deal, but as he gets closer, this becomes more of a danger. So, let me move out of the way here. There we go. Each Mega Buster shot does him 2 damage. So he takes 14 hits. But again, one thing with Mega Man bosses is the fact that their invincibility frames will keep them from getting hit constantly. So you have to give them a shot, wait a second, give them a shot, wait a second, give them a shot, wait a second. So that's kind of the pattern you have to go with there. But Guts Man didn't give us really any kind of trouble, so we'll just go ahead and on to the next level. Now we've got Guts Man out of the way, we can go after Cut Man next. Namely because the super arm is incredible against this boss. And you'll see what the super arm does in just a minute. So now we start on a new stage, Cut Man stage. And to show what the super arm does, the G, that's what it does. It's normally very useful if you have these special blocks, and you'll know the special blocks because of what they look like. They look kind of like what Mega Man's next to right now. That's nice. So basically, from where you have these blocks here, and see about what I said about how annoying the watchers can be? But once you use these blocks, they're very strong and can take out most things in one hit. But you have to be next to a block to use it, so the effectiveness of the super arm is kind of limited. So as we go up through here, we're going to fight these enemies called beaks. Basically, it's just gun turrets that kind of shoot off in 4 different directions. Not really that big of a deal, especially if you know their pattern. Should be very easy to kind of get past all of this stuff here. And this is kind of the stage that my mind just kind of goes back to every time that I think of the first Mega Man game, because this is one of the first stages that I ever beat in a Mega Man game. And just even with the kind of, I mean, again, it was 1987. I mean, you weren't gonna get complete knockout game design like we would have today, and with all the retro things going on, things of that nature. But I can say with pretty good with pretty good feeling that I mean the stage designs here are really good for 1987, especially for a game that, you know, no one's ever seen before. And it was something that just kind of drew me in, and I've been a fan ever since. So the enemies that I'm fighting now are called Adhering Susie. They basically take 5 hits, and they kind of go from side to side. They don't really shoot, but if you're in a tight spot, they can be a bit annoying to kind of try to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to take care of these, get a few of these little power-ups, the little red pellets that are maybe orange or another color in another level. The little pellets that you get in each level are kind of a bonus for beating the level, and you get an additional score for each one of these that you collect. Now, you don't want to be too greedy like I was there with Adhering Susie. You want to kind of take a couple shots, let Susie move to the other side, and then finish Susie off that way. And you can get whatever items you need after that. Again, you see more super arm blocks here, and again, it's kind of inconsistent for which stages they'll be at and which stages they won't be at. So that's the reason why I said it's kind of inconsistent, and I'm being greedy again. Now I could use a super arm to really take out these Susies here, but not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and take them out, and then we're going to go ahead on up. These little scissor machines, you can shoot the scissors, but you can't defeat the scissors, and you really want to kind of move on from there anyway. So we're going to move on. We're going to get this badly needed energy. So there's 2 types of energy in Mega Man. There's life energy and weapon energy. And they come in little and big sizes. Little weapon and life energies are worth 2, and then the big weapon and life energies are worth 10. So once you see a big weapon or life energy, that's normally really what you want. Well, I did get a 10 just now, but here's Big Eye again, and that's some damage I might not need to take. Normally, most people just kind of bypass Big Eye, but I normally like to beat him because once you take some energy, I kind of just feel like return the favor. So we have a few of these screw top enemies here, and they shoot in a pretty reliable pattern. That's pretty well needed. Oh, that wasn't though. And now we're already at Cutman. Alright, so the thing with Cutman is that he is a very wiry, he loves to jump a lot. So he does a lot of jumping, and he does a lot of, let's see if I can get him! Gotcha! Alright, so we avoid a loss of a life there by the merest of fractions, and we end up getting Cutman's power to cut blade. So we get 70,000 and 29 for the bonus, and that's the Cutman stage. So we've already gone through 2 stages, and now we're going to go to the next one, which is the Electman stage. Alright, so Electman as a robot master is pretty threatening, and you'll see why in a little bit. And we start off already with a brand new enemy called a Gabial. Now, if I try to shoot a Gabial normally, I can stop it, but it won't ever kill it. So I can just shoot as many times as I want to. Gabial ain't going away. What I have to do is use a special weapon to really take care of Gabial. Cut blade is great for this purpose. Then we'll cause this decent weapon energy consumption, only 1 bar per blade. And it pretty much goes in a kind of a circular pattern, and it takes out a lot of enemies that you wouldn't normally be able to take out with your normal Mega Buster, so it's something that's pretty nice. So now the next enemies here are very hated. They're the Watchers. Thing about the Watchers is that they come from top and bottom of the screen. They shoot an electric beam out at you if their eyes completely retract. Now, where they're placed is normally in a place where you have a lot to lose by falling. Now for our next little item, and this has become a recurring thing in the Mega Man series, the appearing blocks. So normally it's a set of appearing blocks, and they normally appear and disappear at regular intervals, and you have to figure out the pattern and use that to your advantage to progress through the level. Some of the appearing blocks can be really annoying and really challenging as you kind of progress through this game and other Mega Man games, and you'll see that coming up. So we're just going to go ahead through here, and we're going to go up to this next area. And this is where the Watchers can be kind of dangerous, because there it is. Not that they do that much damage, but again, if I was on another section of the level, then if I was on like the first section where there's nothing but the ladder, then that leads to lots of problems. Now normally one thing I'll say about special weapons, as I'm using the cut blade now, is normally you don't want to use the special weapon that you need to use for the boss that much. But since the cut blade is a really convenient thing to use, we can go ahead and we can take advantage of the cut blade's pretty decent energy consumption and use that throughout the level and still have enough for Electman later on. So now this item here, that's the magnet beam. How we get it is one of two things you can get it with. Most people know of the super arm or the Gus Man power to get that, but you can also use Electman's weapon if you come back to the stage with the elect beam and you use the elect beam on those blocks. It'll blow those blocks up as well. So that's a little kind of slightly not known thing about the elect beam and kind of what it does to super blocks that you normally use the super arm for. So just a little thing there if you're ever kind of wanting to replay this again and you didn't know that, then now you do. So let's go and take care of this last Gabial. And the electric traps are just a normal pattern. You don't want to get hit by these, namely because of how much damage they do. I believe it's 4 every time that you get hit by one. So you want to be very careful to not, you want to be very careful and just kind of go follow the pattern and just go from there, so you don't get hit by that, because you're going to need a lot of energy for the boss fight that's coming up. A little bit of a slip there, but we got that taken care of. And now let's go ahead through this little pit section here. Thankfully, these aren't appearing blocks. Later on there'll be certain sections kind of like this that will be appearing blocks in later games of the series, so get ready for that. And here's Big Eye in probably one of the most inconvenient places, and this one I will skip because there's really no room to fight a Big Eye where you normally take 18 shots with a with the Mega Buster, or it's about, I believe it's about 8 or 10 with the cut blade, so it's not really all that worth it. So the one thing you want to think about here is not to be too slow or too hasty going through these, because again, Electman's coming up, you want as much energy as you can for this fight. So just go through it, just really, oh, nah, I got hasty. Let me not do that again. There we go. So we switch to the cut blade. And we make sure to face Electman. Now, one thing for Electman is if you shoot, he tends to kind of go back a little bit, and he tends to stop to kind of show his electric power. He raises his arm for using an elect beam. Now, an elect beam, if it hits you, does 10 damage. You can't get hit by very many of those. Get hit by 3, you're done. He also does, I think, either 4 or 6 contact damage. So Elect Man is a very dangerous boss, and you really want to be careful when dealing with him. But if you have the cut blade, it makes it a whole lot easier. Next stage, Iceman. Iceman stage is probably one of the most technically challenging from a platform perspective, and you'll see why in a second. First enemies we see here are Crazy Razies. Namely, not that big of a deal, especially if you shoot them in the head. But if you shoot their body instead, or if you let them run into you, then their head and body will just basically separate, and then you have to deal with the head, which kind of has the same pattern as a Watcher, which becomes far more annoying to deal with than when it's just running towards you. So I'll take a little bit of damage, but I got a little bit of energy, so it kind of evened out. And so we're going to go through here, and we're going to fight these Pings and Gabials. Now, one rad thing about the Elect Beam is that it goes off in 3 directions, and allows for just incredible ways of dealing with enemies. So, and a lot of things normally die in one hit with the Elect Beam. Big Eyes and like a couple other enemies are rare exceptions to it, but we'll look and see where they are in a little bit. Now, these are the appearing blocks that I warned you about. I didn't jump far enough. So I can take care of this thing instead of trying to just jump over it all the time from Elect Beam or Cut Blade. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to try this again next time it comes around. So appearing blocks have had quite the history in, I should say, annoying players. And this next section's actually one of the more challenging ones. So what you need to do is that you can follow this pattern all the way across. And that's how you do it. That's normally not easy to get the first time, or if you're not used to it. So you have to kind of take your time with those appearing blocks so you don't get hit by the Gabial. Next section. These are footholders. I hate footholders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little trick with the magnet beam, and I'm going to... Yep, and I ran out of room. Doggone it. So the one little trick you have to think about with using the magnet beam is that while using the magnet beam, you have to not go over the top of the screen. Otherwise, when you go over the top of the screen with the magnet beam, you'll incidentally lose a life because the game thinks you're wrapping from the top to the bottom, and it counts as a pitfall. So you have to be very careful and very frugal where you place your magnet beams if you're going to do the skip to avoid the footholders. Now, the reason why I don't like dealing with the footholders is because of the reason that the footholders are interesting enemies. They kind of shoot at random intervals. And the bad thing about the footholders is that when they shoot, you can sometimes go through their platform and you'll fall to your death anyway. And I'm messing this pattern up pretty bad. Doggone it. Alright, let's try and recover here from that last death. There we go. There we go. There we go. So we're going to go through this next section again. And we're going to go ahead and try the magnet beam trick again. Up. Up. Oh, man. Oh, my game's all thrown off. Now, I could use the magnet beam here to kind of go across this, but I find it a little bit more useful to kind of just do this normally, and then use the magnet beam to kind of go across the big gap pit without much difficulty, or at least not as much as you would trying to use the footholders. Alright, so we're going to do that again, starting right now. Now, one thing you can do, you have to be careful here, because the footholders will hit you, and you will have problems. You'll also run the pings, but they shouldn't be that big of a problem at the end of this area here. And you don't really need the magnet beam for anything. Else. So, look, could have used that. And we'll just top off the elect beam for what's coming up. But normally going through that section, you have to kind of use a lot of patience, but the magnet beam helps out against that. So, Big Eye. Here he is again. Let's go past him. And 5 elect beams take him out, and I'm going to go ahead and hazard getting this energy. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to get towards the end of this level. Again, it's one of the more technically challenging levels in the game, but it's something that's not way too much trouble if you kind of recognize the patterns and kind of work with them. Iceman. Iceman doesn't really look like that much of a boss. However, much like the elect beam, if the Ice Slasher hits you, it is 10 damage. So you ought to be very careful not to get hit by the Ice Slasher as it kind of comes across towards you. And he normally does a pattern where he goes down, then he goes up, and then he kind of moves a little bit and then goes down and up again. The elect beam will help you keep him from doing that for long. So we've beaten 4 Robot Masters already so far, so let's go ahead and beat number 5 now in Fireman. So Fireman, and of course his level will be a place where there's lots of molten steel and fire and things of that nature. Hey, Fireman, right? So, thing to be very careful of here while going through this section is that there's a lot of these screw top enemies here, but now that our elect beam only needs to be used really for defeating enemies, we can actually use it to great effect to get through most areas. So like a lot of areas where these screw tops will be a problem from coming underneath and you can't do anything with them, we can do that. We can also use the elect beam to get rid of the chain keys here, which constantly come up from the fire at the bottom of the level. We also have fire rods here that do a decent amount of damage if you get hit by them. But there is a little thing you can do to these fire rods to slow them down. That's to use the Ice Slasher. Interesting thing about the Ice Slasher is that it really doesn't do any sort of damage to enemies. It just freezes enemies or holds them in place. You can jump over them or get around them if you want to, but you can still get hit by them even though they're frozen. So unlike Metroid and the Ice Beam, you kind of don't want to stand on enemies because of what can happen with the Ice Slasher. There's still enemies and they can still hurt you through contact damage. So we're going to go through to this next section. A few more fire rods, a few more chain keys. Alright, and we've got to be... This is a section that can be a little bit grueling because the fire rods and chain keys can kind of gang up on you and cause lots of problems. And with Mega Man's kickback, it's something where you have to kind of keep in mind what his kickback is, and you have to really be careful as to not go into an area where you can get knocked off of a platform completely. And these fire rods are very good at doing that. Chain keys are too. So you gotta watch his kickback as you go. But if you're careful, you can avoid that section. Now, I know there's a way to kind of go through these fire sections here, but really, a little magnet beam goes a long way here. You only need to use one to kind of skip that whole part, and we can go from there. Now, new enemy, Killer Bullet. Thing about Killer Bullets is that Killer Bullets will come across the screen, but when you shoot them, they will explode. And if they explode, they can potentially explode on you if you're close enough to one. And it's not so much the damage of that does it. It's really more a problem with when it comes down to getting hit by the explosion and then the explosion knocking you into a pit or some other hazard that you really didn't want to fall in. So you have to be very careful around the Killer Bullets whenever they show up, because they normally come up in very inconvenient spots. So let's go ahead and take care of more of these screw top enemies. Let's get our ice beam going. Now, Fireman. Fireman is one of those bosses that he can become a DPS race. So the best thing to do is normally to kind of go into a place where you can kind of get in one spot and then just kind of jump his fire. Because if you move around, then the fire will track where you are, and you'll end up taking more damage that way. A little bit of a DPS race, but you should be able to handle him with the Ice Wisher. Using the Mega Buster, you have to be a little bit more careful in terms of dodging his fire in one spot, kind of, as shown somewhat. Not that I'm perfect in that in any regard, so